just going crazy.
Welcome to the Indiana Basketball Postgame Show, live from Hoosier Hanks East. Now, here's your hosts, Todd Leary and Jim Coyle.
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard another edition of Indiana Basketball Postgame Show after the game. Normally with Todd Leary, but he couldn't be with us tonight. But instead, we've got not one, but two great, get rid of that,
now,
two
your hosts,
great guys to fill in. How about Joe Hillman and Brian Evans? Both. Thanks, guys, for joining us tonight. We really appreciate it.
Well, that was pretty bad.
Yep, that was ugly, and I was like, oh, boy, with this pair on, it could really get ugly because both of them do not hold back, and that's what the people love, and that's why they, besides being two of everybody's favorite players, you guys are definitely some of the favorites because you tell it like it is, and you're not afraid to express your opinions. And tonight was a game that I think is going to pull a lot of opinions from people that are not going to be good. I know nothing about being a coach or being a player at that level, so that's why I try to always defer to the minds like yours and Brian's and Todd's and those guys. But this was just ugly, man. I mean, Indiana got off to such a great start, Joe, and they were shooting 64% early on. Then all of a sudden they couldn't hit water if they were in a boat throwing a ball out, and it just kept going on, and turnover after turnover, and it just got uglier and uglier. And boys, you've seen it from the inside out. When things start going away like that, what could they have done to slow that down?
Well, what do you want me to say? I mean, I can tell you the whole truth. This is just not a very smart team. And they can't shoot. So I've said this for many years. If you're wide open with 5 seconds off of the shot clock and the shot clock's down to 25 or 22 and you're wide open, it's because the other team wants you to shoot it. You don't have to shoot it. Why do we not throw the ball to Renew every single play down? Galloway can't shoot. Galloway needs to start playing like Steve Isle. If you get a dunk, you shoot it. Otherwise, don't shoot the ball.
Wasn't that unless you're under the basket alone, don't shoot the ball?
Xavier Johnson should never put another IU uniform after that punk move that he put on. That was bad. And everybody's going to say, oh, he didn't do anything. Yeah, he did. That was a garbage play. He reached underneath the guy's shorts and grabbed his package. That was a terrible, terrible play. I mean, I don't even know where to go. That was embarrassing tonight because Rutgers stinks. They're awful.
They're awful. Well, they hadn't won a Big Ten game this year.
Well, you see why. They're a worse shooting team than Indiana, except for tonight.
Yep. Someone mentioned earlier about that move by Xavier Johnson. I don't know if that's any different than spitting on someone. I mean, I try to think of a couple of the lowest things that you can actually do to somebody, and I'm like, wow, really? You going there? He's made some mistakes during his career, on and off the court, but that one was a really bad one on the court in front of a national TV audience. And you can't be the senior leader of a team and not be able to hold your composure.
Well, I've ranted a little bit. Brian, what do you think?
He's been waiting for you to get on here. He's like, oh my, this is going to be something. But yeah, Brian, your turn, brother. We're going to pull your string now.
Well, I've never been a fan of the guy. I think Joe's onto something. I mean, we don't hold people accountable, and what you never see. And God, I hate to say it. This kills me to say it, but I have to piggyback something that Doc has said. Somebody sent me this, some link from something he said the other night. But we don't. There's no discipline, right? So you don't get penalized for poor play. You don't go to the bench. You don't sit down when you don't play well, and you certainly don't get penalized when you misbehave. So this guy, he's our guy, and that's the thing. Like this, Xavier Johnson's our guy. He is our point guard. He's our leader. He's our 6th-year guy. He's our speed racer on Walnut, and he's not going to get penalized for this. We've been dying for him, apparently dying for him to get back on the court. I can't believe he started that game that I think it was Nebraska. There's no working him back in the lineup. As soon as he's ready to go, he's our starting point guard. So I got to believe that, it'll be a ridiculous press conference tonight again by the coach, and, just weak excuses and probably say that he didn't do anything wrong and he'll be back in the lineup. I've seen enough of him for the rest of my life. I don't need to watch that kid play ever again, but it's not over. We're going to keep watching him.
Yeah, unfortunately.
The guy does play hard. He battles. He scraps, but he was not good tonight. But that play is just unacceptable. I mean, that is just not acceptable from an Indiana player. I mean, I don't care who you are. It's just not. I mean, God, that's embarrassing. But as Brian said, there's no accountability whatsoever on this team. And I'll go back to the game when they played Morehead State. We were so bad in the Morehead State game, and yet the same guys play. They keep playing. They were lucky to win. The only reason why they won is because Morehead State threw up on themselves. But how do you not have in the next game playing against Northern Alabama or Kennesaw State, basic Division II team? Why are you not starting 5 guys and telling the guys that started the Morehead State game who played awful, sit down and watch? There's zero accountability. And the problem in college basketball now is coaches are so worried about guys transferring that you can't sit a guy down for playing poorly. You can't, because the guy, well, I'm transferring. Who cares? Why would you care if anybody transfers if you're not winning? Somebody explain that to me.
Or if you're not playing hard or not putting the team in a position to win and continually putting them in positions where they can't win. And
when is Indiana going to recruit a guy that can make a wide open shot? I guarantee you Brian could go out there right now and make wide open threes right now at a better percentage than we have. We can't shoot, but yet guys take shots because they're open. Throw the ball into Renew. He's the only guy who can score.
Yeah, Malik Renew and Kalel Ware, 13 and 17 for him tonight, but not enough, as the team is just, they went from shooting 64% early on to just couldn't hit anything, like I said. But the turnovers, poor play, poor passing, poor defense. I mean, I don't know. Was there anything that was done well tonight at all?
I can't think of anything.
They did show up. This is a place they have not won since 2018. And I hate to say this, but with the win tonight, Rutgers has tied the all-time series with Indiana at 8 apiece. Not very deep, but the fact that series is tied that's got to be embarrassing for former players, for anybody. I mean, Rutgers is not a program that should be in the same breath with an Indiana. But they're doing what they take.
We're like a I don't know if it's RP. I don't know what the ratings are anymore, but we're like the 100th ranked team. So we're not just outside the top 25, knocking on the door with our 11-4 record or whatever we are now. That's not who we are. We are like the 100th ranked team in the country, and our arch rival is number 1 and being called the best team in the country. We're a long ways away from being relevant. We're not close. We're a long ways away from being relevant in college basketball, and that's what really stinks here in year 3 of this. And I think we have what everybody talks about, 5-star talent. We have some. That's not what I see when I turn on Peacock. I don't see 5-star talent. I don't know what I'm looking at. But we struggled to get to 40 points, and it's hard to watch.
Yeah, Brian says, pretty bad this makes Archie Miller's teams look good. Funny, I was thinking that earlier. I'm like, this reminds me of during Archie Miller's tenure. There's nothing different. There doesn't seem to be offense that's being run with the purpose of scoring the ball or getting open shots for guys, even though that they probably couldn't hit them if they had the open shots. But you guys are obviously the pros at this. I'm not seeing anything that is looking like that they're trying to get the ball into the basket other than just shooting the ball when you have an opening.
Yeah, I mean, well, college basketball is a hard game to play. Well, any level of basketball is hard to play when you can't shoot. I mean, that's the bottom line. And it's not like we shot poorly at night. We're not a good shooting team. We don't have good shooters. And you can have all the talent in the world. You still got to put the ball in the basket, but it's also difficult when you just stand around a lot. I mean, we have a lot of standing, maybe a little bit of a penetrating kick. Guy gets an open three, but I don't know. Okay, fine. Go open three. I wouldn't worry about that and playing against Indiana. I mean, shoot it. Who cares? Especially when you're on the road. I mean, Indiana just proven over the last, 10, 12 years, we're not tough enough. We don't demand enough of each. Players don't demand of each other. Coaches don't demand of players to just be tough and grit your teeth, grind it out, and play on the road. I guarantee you the talk of Indiana basketball since Bob Knight left has been, it's hard to win on the road. It's really hard to win on the road. We got to be ready. We never talked about playing on the road. It was another game and we're going to play. Never was it talked about, this is going to be tough because we're going on the road. I mean, but now you're giving people outs, and I don't know. It's difficult to watch. And I think Brian's right. We're not right there. We are way away from being even close to being there.
Yeah, I was thinking about on the drive over here that the sheer fact that if Rutgers won the game, that they would tie the series. And I was like, well, how could that even be? Well, that's because for the last several seasons, Rutgers has consistently at least been tough. They haven't been great, but they've been tough. They have held each other accountable. They have been. That's been their MO, is to be a tough, gritty team, and that's not something we've seen out of an Indiana team in a long, long time. You guys would know better than me. When's the last time that Indiana had that toughness, like it was when you played, even after when you played, Joe, and when you guys held each other accountable? Brian, I know that from doing this with Todd so much, he talks about it all the time. It didn't matter who it was. It was always, if it's not Joe Hillman talking to somebody, it was Damon Bailey or Pat Graham, or somebody's going to be saying something to somebody all the time, because everyone had one goal: to win and to do things the way that they needed to do to accomplish that. And that does not seem to be the case anymore.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm not close to the program. I haven't been to a game this year. It looks like a country club to me. I mean, when I left school, I was like, well, okay, Coach Knight's there, so it's hard, and he's holding people accountable. Joe said it best. It's accountability, right? So you know that, if guys aren't playing the right way, they're paying a price in practice, and they're having tough times if they're not playing the game the right way. And I don't have the confidence that that's the case anymore. I feel like Joe touched on it. We're worried about guys leaving instead of worrying about guys playing and staying and playing the right way. It's almost like a fear of, oh my gosh, what if this guy that was 1 for 6 and didn't give an effort, what if he leaves? Oh no, that would be awful. And that's got to stop, because that's garbage. We've got to get guys that buy in and play the game the right way. And we don't have that. I don't care. We just don't. And the shooting side of it, I don't even know what to say about that. There's just no shooting. And I don't know. I don't want to call guys out. It's all the way around. There's no shooting. The percentages tell the story. It's not me ripping on individual guys. There's no shooting, period, in a story.
And this is coming from a program that used to have shooters down the bench. You could go 8, 9, 10 guys deep, and you couldn't swing a dead cat and not hit somebody that was a shooter on an Indiana basketball team. Now you can't find one in a closet in Assembly Hall anywhere, which in a state that breeds shooters like most of us breathe, it's getting harder and harder to understand how you keep watching other teams, and a guy from Indiana plays for this team, and a guy from Indiana goes to play for that team. Even the Hart kid, I don't know his story, his situation. He ends up at Kentucky, but I would like to think that surely to God, he would have had something to offer this team. I know that they probably looked at the fact that he's going to be a 4-year player. They didn't want to give up a scholarship for that long, but at the end of the day, the goal is to win, I would think, and whatever it takes to get there.
Give me a bench full of 4th and 5th year guys on my team in college basketball, and we'll drill every guy like Magabo and all these so-called 5-star guys as freshmen. Yeah, they're more talented probably, but you got to know how to play, and you got to be able to make shots. And again, you have to make shots to be able to play basketball. It does you no good if you can't. And yeah, I mean, maybe 4 or 5 years down the road, that guy's going to be an NBA player, but if he's playing against 22-year-olds, he's going to have a difficult time. And people don't understand the difference between playing 3 or 4 years and really understanding your way around, being comfortable on the road, shooting, making good decisions. I mean, we make bad decisions with the basketball. We make bad decisions on fouling people. We don't block out. We can't make free throws. 4 for 15 from the line. Brian could drop kick him 4 for 15. I mean, I guarantee you, I know he can make him right-handed as a left-handed guy. I mean, now sometimes free throws do get in your head, and it's kind of a thing that it's contagious a little bit, but doesn't mean you have to be jacking up threes when you can't make shots. I don't understand the mentality of that. Coach Knight would say, do not shoot the ball unless there's 1 second on the shot clock. You are not to shoot it. And whoever throws it to him and he shoots it, you're not going to play either. So don't throw it to him. I mean, when is it? Why is it that a coach gives everybody the green light? Why? Because he's afraid he's going to leave? I'm sorry. I would tell Galloway, you are not to shoot the ball unless you get a driving layup or a dunk. He can score 8 or 10 points a game, getting a steal for a layup, getting on the break for a layup, getting an offensive rebound, layup, driving to the hoop, layup. There's 8 points. He doesn't need to shoot. I'm sorry. I love the guy. He plays hard, but you have to be able to make shots.
Brian?
Dude, hey, listen, I subscribe to Joe's publication. He's right. He's always right. You know what? It's so true. And Joe scored 1 million points in high school and knew how to play his role when he was at Indiana and could still shoot, but always did what was right for the team in the spirit of what's best for the team. And if he was on this team, he'd be the best shooter on the team. and that's just a fact. But, the shooters are out there. I mean, they're out there somewhere, right? This kid, Joey Hart, you talked about, I played against his father. So he went to a rural Terre Haute school, and Joey Hart Sr. was maybe a year or 2 older than me. And I had, I don't follow a lot of the recruiting trail or anything else. And I just learned, maybe in September that he went to Kentucky. And as far as I know, he's not playing. I don't know that he's playing. But if it's a kid that walked on there, how is he not with us? I just don't understand it. And I'm hearing way too much noise, way too much noise. And I think it's fair to say now, I haven't said this out loud, but I think it's fair to say at this point in time in year 3, what's going on? Is the staff, are we working hard enough? Are we hitting the recruiting trail hard enough? Are we chilling? I don't know what it is, but I don't like it. I know that I don't like it. I'm not a fan of what I see when I tune in and I'm watching all these games. I'll always be a huge fan. I have been my whole life, and I'm watching. But I'm not excited about what I'm seeing. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's hard. It's hard to watch. The team. What's amazing is the team does at home games when there's good crowds and everything. The Kansas game, for example, the crowd was great. They played really hard. They were into it. But then the next night they show up and do nothing. This team is just not very good on the road. I mean, and actually Indiana, when you look at their schedule in the Big Ten, they got a break this year because they got a pretty soft schedule. They don't have to play at Northwestern, which would be a loss. They don't have to play at Iowa, which would probably be a loss, and they don't have to play at Michigan State. So, I mean, they get to escape 3 really tough places to play. Now, that's just the way the schedule goes with this many teams. So, I don't know why guys don't sit. That has always been the greatest thing in the world that Bob Knight did. Was if you didn't play and you guys didn't put out the effort and we got beat, well, what the heck? Let's give some other guys a chance. And you never see that anymore. And I always thought, Coach always said the greatest motivator in the world was sitting on the bench, and he was not kidding because nobody goes to Indiana to sit on the bench and not play. I don't get it. Like I said, I guess everybody's just worried about coaches. And everybody's worried about guys transferring. But the transfer portal's made it that way. And the transfer portal, I said it last year, I said the year before, is going to ruin college sports. It's the dumbest thing in the world that you can just get up and leave whenever you want and transfer without any repercussions whatsoever. Because now it just fills coaching staff because you got to kiss everybody's butt.
Yeah, and that continues to go on with the NIL, and Indiana has gone from – they've always been a national team, but they were able to do it with the guys from the region. Not that there's anything wrong with going out and getting somebody from California or from wherever they may be, because that's what Bob Knight would do when he found a great talent like Joe Hillman. He'd go to California to get him. Normally he would do it from right here. He'd go to Terre Haute and get someone like Brian Evans. But this team is comprised. I think Indiana they're probably 4th or 5th in the Big Ten on number of players from Indiana on their roster, which it doesn't mean they have to be from this state to make this team good. I get that. But my point is there are a lot of players in this state that play the game pretty well. And I kind of not understanding the makeup, the roster makeup of this team. It doesn't seem like they have the parts they need. Obviously the shooting is bad, but no one seems to be on the same page.
Well, this is maybe this is too harsh, but when I'm watching I'm like Joe. I'm watching the Purdue game, and I see the guys they have. I see the makeup of the guys they have, and I see where they're from. I live real close to Westfield, and know a lot of people that know Braden Smith, and he didn't get recruited by Indiana. And
would have crawled to Indiana.
No, he's on track to be an All-American as a sophomore. An All-American as a sophomore at a point guard position where we don't have a point guard. And, that's a head scratcher for me, right? I know that he was not recruited officially. I know he was not recruited by us. And that's I don't know how that's a tough pill to swallow. Fletcher Lawyer, who was Fort Wayne, he was not recruited by Indiana. And And there's just a toughness. Now, are they getting it from Matt Painter? Maybe. Did they bring it to Lafayette on their own? I don't know. Maybe. I'm not close enough to say. But I see the way they play, and there's just a toughness, and there's a grittiness to them. And there's let's take care of the basketball. Let's not be stupid with the basketball. Let's play with a high basketball IQ and just not make bonehead plays. And that's not us. And I watch this, and I think, you know what? It's hard for me to not say this, and it hurts me to say it. I wouldn't have been recruited by this coaching staff. They wouldn't have wanted me. I was right there. I was right across the way. I don't think they would have recruited me. And I actually think Matt Painter may have recruited me. And
I hear you.
That's probably where I'd be. And it's hard to say that.
I don't disagree with that.
I hate those guys. And I but I look at it's 2023. It's not 1991. And I look at that team and I see the way they play and how they behave, and I say, well, I'd probably fit in there. And I don't think I'd fit in on this team that we have.
Well, one of the things I just saw, Jim, that ripped across here, it said Xavier Johnson's foul was not right. It was incidental contact. I've watched it 3 times. That's what the guy just wrote. That guy needs to go back and watch it, and he grabs it. There's no doubt about it. But, I mean, going back to what Brian said, even if you would have gotten recruited now, I don't know where all this noise comes from on my end, but even if I was recruited by Indiana today, I'd probably be transferring because they'd probably run me out because of the portal. Because as a freshman, you don't do much. I just don't. Again, accountability by the coaches has to be more demanding on the players to get the most out of them. And if you can't get the most out of the players that you're bringing in, it doesn't matter if they're from Indiana or Alaska or Nova Scotia. It doesn't matter. We had one guy on our team that on the championship, and that was all for it. But if you're not going to bring guys in and demand an excellence, demand what Indiana basketball is supposed to be, which, you know what? I don't know what Indiana basketball. I've heard Brian say this before. Indiana basketball has no identity. What are we? What do we do? Seriously, I'd love for somebody in these chats and comments to give me an idea of what is Indiana basketball identity today.
Yeah, it's not as a shooting team. It's not as a defending team. It's not as a team that runs you up off the floor. They're just there. I was wondering if they were going to score 50 points tonight. I didn't think they were even going to get to 50. They didn't score. They went from the 10 minutes, 10 seconds in the first half until, well, for the next 25 minutes, I think they scored like 14 points in a 25-minute stretch. And it seems like nothing's done to change it. There's no, you talk about putting guys' asses on the bench. It's like there's a fear of doing that, yet what are they afraid of? Because what they're afraid of is already happening.
Well, I'll give you an example. A guy who did shoot the ball right, he would have been good for us this year because he would have just been a year older. He would have been more mature. He would have been. Why would Tamar Bates leave? I mean,
Great question.
Tamar Bates could make some shots. I mean, I don't know. Maybe he wasn't happy with the whole deal. I mean, it's just, I don't know, Jim. It's tough to watch, and it's disappointing because, we had this thing, and I knew, I knew Indiana was going to probably struggle a little bit this year scoring wise, because when you lose, Trace Jackson Davis was very, very good. He scored. Thompson could score. I mean, they lost a lot of scoring last year. And so now you're asking guys to step in, and that's difficult. That is a tough transition to be able to go and say, okay, now Renew's done a really nice job. To me, there's a bright spot of Indiana. I think Renew has been very, very good. And I think he can be better if, but tonight, I'll give you an example of tonight. Indiana was playing pretty good in the first half. They started off okay. Rutgers was playing horrible, but Indiana was turning the ball over. But I think they were up 6 or 7, or 18-11 or something. And Renew goes out of the game. And now all of a sudden, Renew comes back in with 4 or 5 minutes left in the half. He sits out 5 or 6 minutes, and the game's tied. Why is Renew going out of the game when we're playing okay? I don't understand the NBA mentality of substituting. Are guys that tired? I mean, Brian, how many games? Brian used to play 40 minutes all the time. I mean, those are some of the things that I go, gosh, got to have somebody out there that can make some shots. And Renew is one of the guys that can score. He would never come off the floor for me.
Well, no.
Earlier in the season, Brian, it was we were seeing the same thing at like a certain minute mark. He would bring in the hockey lineup change, and he kept getting questioned about that. And especially at the Auburn game when they were on a roll, and then the same thing happened, and then all of a sudden, boom! That seemed to have given Auburn the opportunity to do what they did and turn things around in that game. And then because Woody kept saying, well, I can't play him 40 minutes. And we're like, well, you sure played Trace Jackson Davis 40 minutes a game last year. So
he's bullish about that. And, he's holding the microphone. And I think you guys as the media, have, they give him a little bit of a hard time. But he stands his ground on that. We hired, the problem is we hired an NBA coach that has an NBA mentality and NBA substitution patterns. And, they play a bunch of games. And so you got these veteran guys like LeBron that they're going to play. There's a 48-minute game. It's not a 40-minute game. This is a different world. And when you got a 48-minute game and you got a 35-year-old guy and you play games 3 or 4 nights a week, you've locked in to play him 34 to 36 minutes, right? So they make these decisions, prior to the games. And that's not what college is. I've watched Duke teams and North Carolina teams have a 7-man rotation and win a national championship. And the best players are expected to play 36 to 40 minutes a game. And that's not who's coaching our team. And so he has made these decisions because that's what they do in the NBA. We hired a guy that was in the NBA for 40 years, and that's what he knows, and that's what he does. And so that's what we're seeing. Instead of a guy, when you're 18, you should be conditioned. Shoot, I was a terrible athlete. I was a below average athlete. I could play 40 minutes in a college game, 40 minutes in a college game, because you only play a couple games a week. But he's been in the NBA for so long, he's got these substitution patterns in his mind, and he's taking guys out of the game that should be conditioned to play the whole game. Unless they're in foul trouble, unless they're playing poorly and not giving effort, Malik Renew should be 38 to 40 minutes in a game.
Joe.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's now I don't know if he had 2 fouls or not. I really don't know, but he put him back in, so I'm assuming no. But when you play twice a week, the NBA is a different monster where you're playing 3-4 nights out of 6 and got to travel and do all. I mean, it's just a different deal. And you're playing 48 minutes and you got 82 games to play. You're banged up. I mean, you got guys that have been in the league and been playing basketball for, they're 36, 37 years old. You gotta monitor that. But I don't know. It is going to be a shocker to me if Indiana makes the NCAA tournament. I just don't see any path to them making it unless they can beat Purdue. And everybody gets hey, we got a huge win, because let's face it, they had Kansas, but does anybody really think Kansas is that good? They don't have any guards that can shoot. I mean, Kansas is great at home. But I don't know how good Kansas is. So
I agree with that.
I don't know. I think we're going to struggle. I think we're going to struggle on the road in every game we play. And I mean, it's just the lack of shooting is something that, I don't think you can overcome in the college game unless you've got the 2 or 3 best players on the floor. mean, they overcame it a little bit. They overcame it a little bit the last 2 years because Trace Jackson Davis could make some plays and could really go for a big guy, put it on the floor, could create some disadvantages, but they don't got that.
What does Indiana do now? Woody has got his methods. Like you said, he spent 40 years in the NBA, and he's not going to change. He's 64 years old, however old he is. And this is what we're probably going to see. The recruiting aspect of it, I think he views that differently than a lot of people do as far as the pieces that he thinks he needs. Having a 5 next to their name does not equal success all the time. And some of these guys still have to learn. I mean, you go from high school to college, especially at this level, it's a whole different ball game, and they don't seem like they're able to. Jalen Hood-Schifino was able to do that, but you've got Gabe Cupps, who he seems over his head, and I don't mean that as a negative towards Gabe Cupps as a kid. I know he's working hard, but he just seems like he's in over his head. He's not quite quick enough. He's not offensively. He doesn't try to score. I don't know what his goal of being when he's on the court is, other than just trying to not make a mistake.
Well, I know not to go at that kid, but he's at this stage of his career, he's more or less a facilitator, trying to get other people set up. What we don't know, and Joe knows this, it's hard to comment on strategy because we're not in the locker room and we don't know what they're trying to get done, and we don't know what he's being told to do. So it's hard for me to, maybe pick that kid apart. We've seen him make good plays. I think I've seen him shoot enough to think that he knows how to shoot the ball. Now, we're definitely not running. What I can see is that we're not running sets to get him shots. That's for sure. We're not trying to get him open. Although I don't know who we're trying to get open. I could echo what Joe said, and it's like, well, why don't we just get the ball, especially in this last 4 or 5 games? Why don't we just get the ball to Malik as much as we can? Which I got to be honest, I hated the last couple of years where all we did was come down the right side of the court and try to give the ball to Trace on the right block so he could come to the middle of the court, with his left hand, with his strong hand, and just, that was everything we did. And it got us into the play-in game, woohoo. That's what we did. And we had a really good player. So I don't mean to take anything away from him. But that's all we did. And that got monotonous, and that was tough to watch because there wasn't a lot of offense. And I was holding my breath over the summer going, what are we going to do now? And now I feel like I wish we were giving the ball to Malik, who's another left-hander on the right block, to just let him every possession. And that's what I wish we were doing. But I don't know what we're doing.
Well, one of the things about the recruiting side of things, I mean, they're recruiting good players. I mean, Cupps is fine. I mean, you can't. The guy's a freshman. Gabu, he's got ability. The guy's got a nice stroke. He makes some shots. But gosh, when these guys miss, they miss bad. But as Brian said, what are we running? I mean, I would love to see something of Cupps is fairly athletic and can get the ball on the move, and why not flare him off a screen or re-screen on a down screen, get something off the move? I think Magabu could do the same thing. I mean, he could catch the ball on the move and be dangerous. He can handle the ball. He can make shots. It seems like we're so in love and infatuated with the high pick and roll with Xavier Johnson and Galloway trying to do something, but I don't know, are those the best guys to be doing that? I mean, what happened to Banks? I mean, Banks has some ability, but again, Brian brought up a great point, Jim. We're not at practice every day. We don't know what's going on. I mean, we're sitting here in the popcorn stand making comments based off of how they played tonight, which was brutal. They didn't play very good against Nebraska either. But I mean, the thing is both Brian and I know enough about the game and about how things are going that this is not a quick fix. This team's not flipping a switch and all of a sudden going to be in the top 2 or 3 in the Big Ten. I don't see that.
Well, you know what? Let me double down for a second and tell you that, Joe probably did this, played his role about as well as anyone. I've been watching the Indiana Hoosiers for a long time, 43 years, and he played his role about as well as anyone has. And what does that mean? I mean, like I told you, the guy could score, but his role, his job was to go out and do what his coach wanted him to do, and that's what he did. And he defended the best player on the other team, the best guard, NBA guard in his era on the other team in the Big Ten at that time. And so, I'm always sensitive to that because when I got to IU, I wasn't a 5-star, 4-star, or 3-star guy. And I did what Bob Knight told me would get me on the court, period, end of story. And in my case, he told me to, rebound better than I was rebounding and to screen for Calbert Chaney. And he told me that would get me on the court. And so that's all I did. That's all I thought about. I could make an open shot if I got one. And he told me if I screened for Calbert Chaney that, my man and Calbert's man would both go with Calbert and I'd get some open shots. And that's all I thought about. And so, I'm always sensitive to that because I don't know what these guys are being told. So I don't want to be super critical of these 18, 19, and 20-year-old guys.
Yeah,
I don't know what the coach is telling them to do, and I wonder, but I do wonder about that. And I do question what they're being told to do. And are they being given enough direction and is their role defined? I don't always know the answer to that question. And so, I just watch. I try to be a spectator and kind of guess, but, I think we've got some guys that have talent and have ability. I don't know if they're being put in the right position to succeed. I just don't know.
No, I agree. I mean, I don't think there's any school. I would love to have guys like Cup and Gabu, freshmen in there, but to ask an 18-year-old kid. Well, these guys are all 19 and 20 now when they come in. Brian was 17 years old when he got to Indiana. I was 1 week 18 when I got to Indiana. But you can't expect Cups and Mugabe to be the guys. They need to be guys that fit into what everybody else is doing and learn from everybody else. But, I mean, the way it was in Indiana, except if you were a superstar guy, you came in, you did what you had to do to play. If that meant running around screening people, defending, rebounding, you did. And then as you got older, you were expected to do a little more and a little more and a little more. And I saw that every single year of my time at Indiana. I got a little bit more and more and more involved in the offense. But my role in the 87 team was to not screw up. Get in there, make plays, give guys rest, don't hurt us. And I don't know if there's enough of that anymore. I don't know if there's enough with all the social media and everybody running around saying, this guy didn't score. He's no good. He's not. You don't have to score to be good. And that, I don't know, with all the social media stuff and everybody getting, if you don't come in as a freshman and play right away, the coach is screwing you or whatever, and I got to transfer. I heard a great quote the other day. It was a little snippet from something Nick Saban said. Nick Saban was on a conference call and they videotaped it. And he said, hey, I've been coaching now in college for 30 years or 40 years or whatever it's been. I've had all these guys come through. I've got 32 coaches in the NFL, and GMs calling me and doing this year after year after year. It's with over 2,000 players. He goes, you know how many times one of these GMs or coaches in the NFL has ever asked me if a kid played as a freshman? He said, not one. He said, they don't care if a guy plays as a freshman. But that's in the world that we live in now. And Saban was great about that. It's about development. And teams across the country that develop players and get them, you bring them in as freshmen, you get better as a sophomore, you get way better as a junior, and you're really good as a senior. Give me guys like that, and we'll build a program, and we'll go and compete every single year. Because the one and done thing, those guys are really good. but they're really good at 18. They're talented, but they're not what they're going to be if they stuck around for 3 years. But how do you tell a kid, Hood is going to make, $4 million this year not to go? But maybe the NIL money, you can make some of that back. But I don't know. It's just that's the way society is today now. That's a problem.
This comment from Drew says Tamar left because the offensive system is a joke and does not play to his strengths, which I think there's some truth to that. He was not. They weren't running sets for Miller Kopp. They weren't running sets for Tamar Bates last year. They weren't doing things to put these guys in positions to succeed. It was get the ball to Trace Jackson Davis. And if that doesn't work, then Jalen Hood just will drive and shoot. This was kind of the similar as it was last year. There was, other than Trace Jackson Davis, there really wasn't an offense per se. They did not run an offense. You didn't seem like you saw that there was purpose to what that they were doing.
Brian?
I'm trying not to talk.
You have to, boy. That's why you're here, boy. That's why you're here.
Oh my gosh. Well,
let it out, baby. Let it out. Nobody's going to take away your
tomorrow Bates. Tomorrow Bates. Maybe he's going to be better tomorrow. I don't know. He was not a guy that I was rooting for us to get the ball to. So.
I hear you, but he's been around and he's going to be better this year.
We're just from a different era where there wasn't when you said it, Jim, like sets, like run a set for him. I don't know. I got the ball a lot of times. I don't know that anybody ever ran a set for me. We had principles of an offense, right? We try to run an offense. I don't even know what this stuff is anymore when I'm watching. I see this like dribble handoff exchange, this globetrotter thing that goes on at the top of the key, and a ton of ball screens. I don't know that we should have been running sets for Miller Kopp. I felt like there's not enough movement, and I know Woody came from our era where there was just like a motion offense of movement, and I would think that he would see that if you get guys like a Miller Kopp and a Tamar Bates moving in an offense where the defense can't just get set and stand still and know where you're going to be, that everyone benefits from that, right? Just movement. But what we did, we went to the block, we dribbled down the right side, we tried to give it to Trace, and he did a damn good job with the ball for a season. He became a better passer. And when you're dominant, and he was physically dominant, you draw double teams. And I think everyone's like, wow, he became a great passer. Well, I don't know about that. I know that he was good enough offensively on a team that wasn't very good offensively that he got double teamed. And so unless you're an idiot, you figure out how to pass out of the double team. And if you're passing out of it and guys are getting open shots, well, all of a sudden you're a great assist man. So I was never in love with our offense last year. And I kind of feel the same way this year. I was crossing my fingers that maybe we were playing a certain way because we had him, and he was good with the ball, and he was making good decisions last year. He really did. So, I'm tipping my cap to him. I'm not trying to take anything away from Trace, but at the same time, I was hoping, are we going to see something different this year? Are we going to see Woody, build an offense, something different with a lot more movement? And I have to say, whatever it is, 14 games in, I'm kind of bummed. I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing a lot of the same stuff, but without Trace Jackson Davis on the court.
Well, hey, Thompson was a good player too, and it's just, I don't know, Jim. I don't know. It's what I'd really like to see, and maybe you shake things up a little bit, get some guys going, and but again, we're not at practice every day, so maybe those guys are so bad in practice that Woody can't think about it, put them on the floor. But I don't know. That'll stop Coach Knight from just yanking guys off and saying you're going to sit and watch. And he didn't have bad teams.
So what happens now when you're in a position that they're in? The roughest part of their schedule is coming up. They have a 3-game stretch where they, in succession, will play, and I don't remember which is the exact order, but Purdue, Wisconsin, and Illinois.
They play Minnesota at home first, so that's. I mean, hey, you say, hey, look, guys, we're 3-2. We're 3-2 in the Big Ten. We're still right where we need to be. We got a couple games in a row at home. We got to beat Minnesota, and that's all that should be talked about is Minnesota because I think they play them on Saturday. And hey, we got to get that one. And then all of a sudden, boom! Now you beat Purdue at home. You're 5-2. All of a sudden, you get a roll going, and I mean that's what you got to be talking about is we got to get a game, but we got to play harder. We got to play smarter. We got to block out. We got to do little things. It's amazing to me when you do little things, all of a sudden everything else starts working. You get a good block out, you get a rebound, you get a layup. Well, now now your wide open 3-point shot becomes easier because you just made a layup. And anybody that doesn't think that has never played because if you can get in and get a real easy bucket your first one, oh my gosh, now okay, I got the next one. And then you hit that one, and it's like, oh, it's getting bigger, and the rim's looking like I can hit it from anywhere. I mean, it's just there's some of that, and our offense, we don't run offense. I mean, I see people on these chats, oh, we used to run sets for Alford. We used to run sets for Calvert Cheney. We used to run sets for May. No, we didn't. We ran motion. There was no sets. It was motion offense. Why does nobody – you don't see it anymore. Why does nobody run motion anymore? I don't get it. I have no idea. You can't – you got guys that can play. You can't guard it.
Nobody to teach it. Nobody to coach it. They need you guys to come out of retirement.
No, hey, Joe, thank you for saying that. I was reading these same comments, and there's a couple of repeat offenders in here that just keep on saying things, and they have no idea what they're talking about. No, folks, no. We did not run sets for Calvert. We did not run sets for Alford. No, we did not. Joe played with Steve Alford. I played with Calvert. We did not run sets for individual players. We ran an offense. And inside the offense, we knew who was supposed to get the ball. Who were the guys that were. It wasn't equal opportunity. It wasn't for Brian Sloan to get open shots. Brian Sloan knew it was to get Steve Alford open shots. And you're supposed to know that. You're supposed to have some feel for the game, and I think that's what Coach really taught better than anything was some offensive independence. But at the same time, there was principles in place to do things the way he wanted them done. And the way we learned it was 3 hours every day, understanding what he wanted done. And, again, that's ancient history. But, man, the further we go down this path with this guy, coaches, his shadow looms larger and larger all the time. The further we get from 2000, the more I think about him, and I think about the offense and the way he created a team. It's getting more and more at least prevalent to me that wow, man, we've lost that.
And I probably should have used the word sets. That was probably on me. It was more about screening. I mean, the way I understood it, the motion is about screening and the decision that the defender makes, you make off of that. Is that more or less how
that's correct. But watch our offense. Guys just interchange. If you're going to go from the top of the key and go and exchange and run to the corner and there's a guy down in the corner coming to the top of the key, why would you not set a screen for the guy? Why do you just exchange? It's so stupid. I mean, think about that for a second. You're at the top of the key, you pass the ball to the left, and you go exchange with the guy on the right. Why would you not set a screen for the guy? Because why? Why not? Because that's hard? I mean, it's just, and then, Brian just said a great thing. Equal opportunity. It isn't equal opportunity. Get your best guys the ball and let them shoot way more than everybody else. We had 4 guys score in the national championship game and 1. I mean, it isn't about everybody. Hey, if you're open, shoot it. Hey, Steve Isle was told not to shoot the ball. Steve, do not shoot the ball. Unless there's 1 second on the shot clock, don't shoot it. I mean, Nowadays, if Steve I was open at the top of the key, he'd be jacking it up because that's what they tell you to do. I mean, that's bad basketball. It just is. I mean, you got to think about what is the best way to score in basketball? Getting to the free throw line. Everybody says analytics will tell you this.
Not this team.
Analytics will tell you this. Oh, you make 1 out of 3 3-point shots. It's like shooting 50% from the field. That's good. Take 3-point shots because you make 1 out of 3. Okay, so basically if you make 1 out of 3, that's 3 points. You get a point per possession. If you make 50% of your shots on the field, you get 2 points for 2 possessions. That's a point per possession. If you get to the foul line and shoot a lot of free throws, guess what? You're going to make at least one of those every single time down. That's a point per possession. So why are you not shooting more free throws? Because everybody wants to jack up wide open, crappy 3-point shooting threes, and you're easy to guard. We used to shoot 25 to 35 free throws almost every single game. Go look it up. We led the league in scoring a lot of the times. I mean, Brian led the league in scoring 2 years in a row. It's because he got to the line. Yeah, he can make shots, but he got to the line. And nobody gets that. I mean, I have guys tell me right now, oh, the game's so different. I watch games that you guys play. Joe, you guys never shot threes. I said, because we didn't have to. We didn't have to because we shot free throws. But we scored 80 points, 75, 80 points. We weren't begging to get to 50, I can tell you that. With a 45 or 40-second shot clock and not resetting to 20 if you got an offensive rebound. It reset to 40. So anybody who wants to tell me that our teams couldn't play today, you're crazy. You're crazy. We had guys who could touch the top of the backboard. Keith Smart, Ricky Callaway, Daryl Thomas. I mean, we had guys who could do all that. So what is it? It's because we don't run anything. We don't run anything to maximize what we've got.
Well, you know what? I'm watching Purdue again, and let me reemphasize to the IU faithful. It pains me to say this, but they run stuff, and they know what they're trying to do. I mean, you got to go into the game, and this is where Coach Knight was unbelievable. We had a game plan. We knew what we were trying to get accomplished, and Matt Painter does a really great job of this. They're getting the ball to Edey. I mean, every guy in that court knows that's what we want to do. And that's what I was talking about earlier about equal opportunity. It's not, this is not, hey, Caleb first, jack a 3 from the corner. This is, and Matt Painter has taught these guys, it's get the ball to Zach Edey. And then, there's going to be a weak side pin down because, what's his name? Lawyer can come off a tight curl and hit a 15-footer, right? And that's okay. He's supposed to do that. And if Braden Smith can create something and get to the lane and get past somebody, he can shoot a floater. They know what they're supposed to do, which is to get it to the big fella. And when I watch us, I just don't know what we're trying to do. I don't think there's a clear cut. This is what we're trying to get done out here. It feels more equal opportunity, or it looks like it to me. And I'm quick to say, I'm not in the locker room. I don't know what our game plan is. But when I watch, and I watch a lot, I still don't know what it is.
One thing is, and Brian just said, we're not down there. We don't. Maybe these players just go, Woody, I'm just going to go do whatever I want to do because you ain't taking me out. Who are you going to put in? What are you going to do? I mean, do they just shut him off? I don't know. But if that's the case, and guys aren't doing what you want done, then don't play them. That is pretty simple. And we've not seen that in I don't know how many years. Again, I mean, I'll bring up Archie Miller. I was down there in Michigan, scored 18 straight points. I think the score was 18-1 at home, first 5 minutes of the game, not even a timeout, nobody sat, nobody nothing. It's like, what are you doing? Sit these guys. I mean, they didn't come ready to play. And the same thing in the Morehead State game. I mean, when has Indiana ever come out and started with the guys that have played pretty good in the second half? No, it's just the same 5. We're rolling out with the same 5 every night. I mean, I would be so mad if I was a guy like let's think, who's number 24? And then Banks. or even Gunn. But these guys, why don't they ever get a chance? I don't know. We're not getting it done from anybody else. That's what surprised me the most about Mike Woodson as a coach at Indiana is he came up with Bob Knight having guys that if they didn't do stuff, they sat. And Woody saw it all. No doubt about it. He saw it all. He saw how the motion got him wide open shots left and right. He could really, really shoot. And Mike Woodson was a great scorer in Indiana, maybe one of the best ever. I mean, Woodson was probably one of the most underrated players as a great player because nobody talks about him as being one of the great players at IU. He's a top 2, 3, 4 guy at IU ever. That stuff worked for him. I mean, I'd love to see Mugaba run around off screens, cutting, jumping, shooting, getting a guy on his tail, going to the basket, creating a play. He'd probably be pretty good. But
So, Joe, let me help you out. It's Mbako.
Oh, sorry.
Just say M, the letter M, and then
Mbako, sorry.
And it rhymes with taco, where he got
as in Taco Bell.
So Mbako. So just think
Mbako. Okay, I got it.
Oh man,
sorry, Mbako. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to be.
That's okay. No, you're fine.
I think that kid's got some serious ability. I mean, I think he could be really, really good. But
I agree. I do agree.
And backs up threes.
Though it's we could keep on going. We want this thing to be good, right? And I don't want to be misinterpreted here as we sit here and talk. Is that I've been loving this. I've been loving this for a long, long time, and it's we don't look good, right? We're a 100th best team in the country. And we're going into a schedule. Let's not pretend, like we go beat Michigan. Michigan's bad. Michigan's getting worse. They don't look good. We're counting that as a good road win. Well, let's be honest. Let's be honest about who we are. We don't look good right now, and we need an overhaul. And I think what Joe keeps saying, because it frustrates him and it does me too, is. Hey, if guys are not going to give an effort, or if guys are going to make just bonehead plays and just turn it over, just turn the ball over, that was the kiss of death to Bob Knight, giving the ball to the other team. Like, you have to treat a possession like it's valuable. It's a jewel, right? You don't just hand it over. And if you did, and if you were sloppy, you were sitting down and watching other people play basketball. Period. End of story. And so 18 turnovers with just a lot of sloppy stuff. Like you guys, everybody knows it. All you guys that are listening and watching, you played youth basketball, and that if you just made a stupid turnover, what'd you hear? You hear the horn and somebody's coming in for you. And that's not a bad thing, unless you establish yourself in your Calbert or you're fill in the blank, right? You're Trace Jackson Davis for these folks that are listening. You're that guy. You get a little bit of a leash to make a stupid play, right? Because you make so many good plays. But when you're, the majority of the guys on the court, if you make a stupid play, you're supposed to hear the horn and you leave the game. That's the way it is. And I want to see more of that. Sit these guys down, make them go think about. You don't just get to continually make just bonehead plays and give the ball to the other team. Go sit down for a while.
Calbert's on staff. He played with Brian. This has got to be difficult for him to see this. I don't know what he says or is able to say or exactly his role in that position, but this has got to be difficult. And that's another thing. Joe, this has got to be one of the weirdest staffs I've ever seen in my life. It has a lot of Indiana flavor to it. You've got Calvert on the staff now. You've got Jordan Hulls. And then you got Randy Whitman. Not sure what Randy does. You've got Armand Hill. Not sure what he does. But there's sure a lot of people on this staff that have a lot of basketball experience, but it doesn't seem like that's getting translated in a way that the college game is benefiting from, at least Indiana's college game.
I don't know. If you don't know what they're doing, I don't know what they're doing. I don't know. Again, we're not down there every day. I mean, I've not been to a practice. I don't even know how hard they practice. But and I don't know what the rules are. With Coach Knight, we had assistants that it was your game, and you went and set that up, and you broke all that down. You did the walkthrough, and the next guy was looking at the next game, and we had really good guys that knew how to break teams down, and they made the game easier for us. I don't know how much of that stuff's going on. I don't know how much they walk through. I don't know what the preparation is like. But I mean, it's just as an ex guy. I mean, Brian lives and breathes this stuff. I mean, he grew up with it. He absolutely. I know this chews him up. Chews me up to see us be kind of a laughing stock. I mean, we're not even thought anymore as a traditional great basketball school anymore. I just don't think we are. I mean, I think that's kind of gone by, and we had Butler be good for a while here, and then now Purdue's good for a while, and Indiana had a little bit of a team. When was the Jordan Holes and Zeller and Oladipo team? What was that? 2016 or
13, 13.
Well,
we have it now.
I just did see a funny comment. Xavier played great the last 10 minutes. He didn't have a turnover.
I thought you were talking about the one that pointing out that how nice your hair is, that you made a deal with the devil.
He has great hair. So we have, but you know what we do? We're always going to have this. We're always going to have a great building, and we're always going to have a great fan base, right? So we have that. That is what makes us, a little bit relevant. Is that, like with that Kansas game. If anybody watched at noon on a Saturday, you're like, oh shit, that's legit. Like you could watch that and go, man, that place, those people. They love that team. They love that program. That's what we have. That's kind of what we have right now. That's about it. And we should be more than that.
Well, maybe Nebraska's a lot better than we thought because they're putting it to Purdue.
I'm not sure if this was something that's said tonight in the presser afterwards. Julia points out, says Coach Woodson's answer to the question regarding the subs. I'm not going to sit here and answer that question when it comes to the fans or you. I don't know if that was tonight or previously, because I know I had asked about it back when it was after so long of seeing the same show over and over. You're like, okay. And now, so I have to wonder, when does Woody say, okay, this isn't working? Whatever it is that they are trying to do, I whatever that is. And again, I don't know either. I know the least of all, but it's not working. I can see that. When do the people that are close enough to it see that and make a change?
I don't know. I mean, that's what makes great coaches and good coaches is adaptability and the ability to change what you think is going to work, and now you got to make adjustments. And sometimes that adjustment isn't about what you're setting up or what you're trying to accomplish. Sometimes that's hey, maybe what we're doing, or maybe the guys we have on the floor aren't doing what we said. I mean, I used to say that about Coach Knight. He was so stubborn that if he had something that he tried to set up and get in motion and part of the preparation and the game plan, what we were trying to do, if it didn't work, he said, no way. I know what I had set up is going to work. You guys aren't getting it done. Hillman, get in there for so-and-so. I mean, that's that. But that's, you got to have the ability to make the adjustments that need to be made. And I don't know. Again, Indiana's 3-2 in the Big Ten. Maybe they're thinking, hey, we're pretty good. We're all right. I don't know. Is that what they're thinking?
Well, you said something earlier. You said something earlier, Joe, and we can't spend. So we've already probably spent too much time talking about old stuff. When you say the word adaptability, and we talked a little bit, you mentioned some about half times and adjustments. I just remember always thinking, that halftime adjustments were being made. You know, and when I mean that, I mean lineup changes. Like, somebody got it going. Somebody, you got a bench guy that had a good first half, and if you did, you probably had somebody that didn't have a good first half. And, oh boy, used to put that guy in, and a lot of times it was me. I remember that as a non-starter, as a freshman. And I started a lot of second halves. If you got something going and you did what he wanted done, you got rewarded and you got put in the game, and somebody else sat down. And and that doesn't mean that's that's an answer like, oh, that's what Woody's doing wrong. I'm not saying that. But I think that I feel like there is just such an NBA vibe to the substitution patterns that kind of sucks. It just kind of sucks. And he's got a lot of his buddies, and I don't want to call out names. I said this to Jim before you came on, is you're friends with a lot of the guys that I grew up idolizing, guys that, in the early 80s that, when I really first started watching basketball, those are my favorite players. And some of them are on his staff, and some of them now have better season tickets. And these guys were some of the most critical guys of all the coaches since Bob Knight that we've ever seen. And I don't hear one word. I don't hear a peep from those guys. Like, nope. I see this thing getting kind of ugly, and I'm not happy with where we're at as the 100th best team in the country. And I don't hear a peep from those guys. And I just wonder why. I have to laugh about it, because it's like, where are they now? They were chirping. They hated, a couple of them really hated Kelvin Sampson, and he's the last undefeated team again this year. And he does things the right way. And you know what? His teams, I watch his teams. His teams play hard.
Oh, they play hard.
His teams play hard.
No doubt about it.
And I watch them, and I'm like, man, I don't even think these are 5-star guys or 4-star guys. But guess what I think? They think they play hard, and they don't take any shit off of anybody. And I like the way they played, and I like the way his teams played at Indiana. And I feel like we're a bunch of cupcakes right now, and it drives me crazy. And here all the Woody's guys aren't saying a word. It's I'm scratching my head, man.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, it's. But when's the last time you saw a guy run and grab some guy and go, "Wake up! What are you doing?" I mean, Alford used to go grab Dean or grab Daryl and say, wake up. It's just, there's none of that. And I remember, Coach Knight always wanted us to be doing that stuff because, he used to say, hey, you guys can either get on each other and demand more of each other, or I can just yell and scream at you guys all day long. So who do you want yelling at you? But, and it's just difficult to watch, Jim. That's the problem, because you know what? If I didn't really care, then I would just sit here and bite my tongue and not say a word. I'm sure somebody's going to rip me for saying that Xavier Johnson made a punk move because I used the word punk, but I didn't call him a name. I said the play was a punk move. I'm sure I'm going to hear about that from somebody. But again, I mean, if the guy, we have an issue at Taco Bell. Did the guy miss any time? No, but we don't know what happened behind the scenes. I mean, who knows? I mean, I don't know, but it's just stuff like that. It's just, and trust me, we had some knuckleheads do some knucklehead stuff when I was playing. So, guys are kids, but it's just more fun when Indiana wins.
The fun of basketball is winning. Unfortunately, that fun has been taken out, man. And I don't want to take up all your all's night, but man, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate getting to listen to you all, your analysis, your thoughts, your true feelings. And I know that everybody that watches and listens appreciates that, just like they appreciated you guys when you played, because you played hard, you played to win, and you didn't cut corners. And just the same with what you do here. And I can't tell you both how much I appreciate you guys all the time, because just like you all are in real life, what you see is what you get. and there's a lot of good to that. And a lot of that is being missed by this Indiana program, without question. And, man, every time you think that they're taking a step to get back toward that, they're not.
I just read some deal that Woody said after the game on the radio with Fish. They thought the team played with great energy tonight, and we only gave up 66 points. Rutgers stinks. They're freaking terrible.
He's got this score thing locked in his head. If they score so many points, oh, he's good. That's where we should be. Or if this team, I don't know what it is these certain numbers are locked into his head, but it's like he doesn't employ the rest of what happened in the game and the other stats that are around that. Or it's an easy way to not talk about it. I don't know.
Well, we've ran the gamut here. You fans out there, show up on Friday. Game's Friday. I said Saturday. Game on Friday. Minnesota at home. This team responds to the crowd. There's no doubt about it. So, be true Hoosier fans like you always were and always supported Brian and I while we played, even when we had some bad seasons or whatnot. This team does respond to that. And so get out there, support them, and let's see if you can win 2 or 3 or 4 in a row. If you can, all of a sudden you're in pretty darn good shape. But that's what this team needs to do to get into the tournament for sure.
How's everything going in business, Joe?
Yeah, things are good. We just did this merger, and things are great. So we're now Wellington Wealth Strategies, and we merged with a couple of guys that will be their succession plan as people get older and get in their retirement phases. We got to get with an ongoing succession of these are going to be the next advisors. These are going to be your next guys to help you get through that retirement income stage of your life. And so, things are good. Really, really good right now. Thanks.
I've got to get your new logo. I still have the old logo, so I'm going to have to get the new logo.
Yeah, I'll get that to you. I'll email that to you.
Absolutely. And Brian, how are things going at Aurora Sleep?
It's fine, man. Everything's good. I gotta get off of here and finish this game up rooting for the Cornhuskers.
I think the Cornhuskers are in good shape here.
74.
They're actually pretty good. Actually, Nebraska, they run some good stuff, and there's no equal opportunity in Nebraska. They're working the ball to get it to this big dude, and they got a couple of shooters, and Purdue.
So I would say there's this Japanese guy that's playing for Nebraska. He's the only the only Japanese guy that's ever been in Nebraska, actually, and. I played against his dad in Japan. I played a couple of 2 years of playing. We're in Japan. His dad was on the national team. He was actually a really good player. And I saw this kid playing. This is like his 3rd year. And when I first saw him, I was like, man, I like this kid. He's a lefty, which it obviously earns my favor quickly. And I looked him up. I'm like, oh my God, I know his dad. It was the coolest thing. And last week they played a home game against us, and his old man was there, and they showed him in the crowd, and it was a pretty cool thing. But I really like this kid. He can shoot the lights out. If we had him, he'd be getting 12 threes a game. I mean, he's not afraid to shoot, and he can make shots. So anyway, hey.
What's make shots? I don't even know what that is anymore.
Hey, this was fun. I'm glad we got a chance to do this. And, Joe said something. I want to make sure everybody knows we're fans, and we got candid tonight, and that's because we wanted to with Jim, but we're fans, and we want to see this thing get better, and it just hadn't been very pretty lately. I gotta get off here and root really hard for Nebraska here for about 5 more minutes.
I love you guys. Appreciate you. I owe you dinner next time you're in Bloomington, brother. Look forward to it. Thank you so much.
All right, Jim.
Great to have you both on, man. You guys are awesome. Love you guys, and so do the fans. Cannot thank both of you enough, man. Have a great rest of your night. And to everybody else, I cannot thank you guys enough for sticking in here with us, but especially to Joe Hillman and Brian Evans, former Indiana basketball players, 2 of the great ones. And no one will tell it to you more truthfully or straight from the heart than those 2 guys will, and we appreciate them very, very much, just like we do Benny and the guys here at Hoosier Hanks East over off of College Ball Road here in Bloomington. There you go. Now open Hoosier Hanks East. Go this way. The cameras follow me. Even look up and you can see the jerseys up there. So, but stop by whenever you have a chance, or come in and watch a ball game. And then, of course, Todd is usually with us. He couldn't make it tonight, but he'll be back for Friday's game, I think, against Minnesota, and as will we. I'll be back on the air tomorrow for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Join us. We'll be talking about this and a lot more. And so I appreciate you guys so very much. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.